There's only one true way you can review Dishonored 2. Classy as f***. I absolutely adore the original Dishonored from 2012 made by Arkane Studios. It truly is one of my favorite games of all time. The reason for this, however, is a bit unknown to me. Is it the choices the game is giving you? What about the story with the amazingly intriguing lore? Or the setting of steampunky Victorian England? Maybe it's all of the above, but right now, 4 years later, its sequel is out and I love it just as much as the original game. But oh my god, the PC version is horrendous! Indeed, if you know anything about the game, or done any research, then you should know that the PC version is very ass. It is very poorly optimized. The main problem is, for most people, including me, the frame rate. It is really inconsistent. Now luckily I didn't have too much problems with it, and I could play on high graphics. But from what I had to see, people with like better graphics card, stuff like that, better than mine, had to go down to medium. Now I don't know why this is, but that's just what I've seen. But what I think is really important for you to understand is that this review, I will talk about the game in itself. I will not talk about the PC version. So I will review the game, not the version that I got on PC. So, why do I enjoy this game so much that I couldn't care any less for the frame rate problems? Well, the story is really interesting. Emily Kaldwin, the young girl you need to save in the first game, is now Empress of the Empire of the Isles, about 15 years later. And her father, Corvo Atano, still has his job as Royal Lord Protector, and gotten the other title as Spymaster. And the game starts with the anniversary of Jessamine's death. Damn you, Dowd! And something interesting happens. Delilah Copperspoon, or as she claims, Delilah Kaldwin, is taking the throne from the Empress by force, with the Duke of Serkonos' help, and at the same time turns either Corvo or Emily, depending on who you want to play as, into stone. So the main character has to reclaim what was taken from them by going to Karnaca to figure out how to defeat the seemingly immortal Delilah, with the help of Captain Megan Foster, with the potential of leaving many bloody corpses behind. Come on, let's... What I like personally about this story is that you get to see the narrative play through the different points of view as Corvo or Emily. And Dishonored has always had a great lore and many characters, and it knows how to use them to its advantage. It is also not shy of showing that the Empress, Emily Kaldwin, might not have been such a good ruler. So when seeing how the people are suffering as a monarch, it is really fascinating to get that viewpoint. Another thing I really liked was to have voiced protagonists, as in the original, Corvo was a silent one.
Obviously, you're pleased with yourself. Do you know why I'm here?
I'll admit, I was nervous when I first heard that Corvo would get a voice, but Stephen Russell truly did an amazing job to get this character to feel alive. And a big thumbs up to Erica Luttrell as Emily, who made her into one badass.
Traitor. That was for my father.
I feel like I have to say that the story doesn't feel as personal like the original game. However, there is another side plot that follows closely to the main one, that when I first saw that they were going to focus on this, I was so happy. I don't want to spoil too much for those who haven't played the game yet, but as you have a choice to choose between playing as the daughter or the father, it truly feels like the entire side plot was made for Corvo, and it really made my heart split in half. So all in all, great story that has more going on around the main mission than the first one, with a side story that I personally am really happy that they put a focus on, as it did have a small part in the old Dishonored. There are a couple of negatives though. The first thing is the fact that the ending is quite underwhelming. Again, I won't spoil anything, but Arkane Studios tried to change how the ending presented itself, as apparently people had some dissatisfaction on how it was in the original game. So instead of a flowing ending based on if you killed a lot of people or not, they tried to give an ending explaining every consequence for your choices. However, the main problem is that I have at least, is it feels sequential. It does not feel like a flowing ending. More of a... this person had this happening to them, the other guy went through with that, and the third little lady swam through the river Thames. I also dislike how the main characters just get a small mention in the ending, rather than showing them living with the consequences, like the original game's ending. Another thing I would rather call a small nitpick is that Dishonored 2 does not have as good of a supporting cast as the previous game. In the old game, you had the Loyalist Conspiracy, which were filled with people. I remember at least 8 individuals you could talk to after every mission. Here, however, there are 2 people. Another person gets aboard the ship that you're staying on for a while, but they disappear quite quickly, and a 4th guy, but he simply disappears altogether. Not even a mention of him later in the game. So I'm a bit annoyed on that part. Though, you do get to meet some people from the old game and see how their age are affecting them. And this includes when playing as Corvo, hearing your enemies mock you for your older age. And I have to admit, it's super satisfying seeing an enemy mock you for your age only for you to fly kick them into a window. And speaking of fly kicking people through windows, the gameplay is something Dishonored did amazingly right, and that doesn't change. This game is so much fun to play. And they've added so much! The sneaking is intense with an improved enemy AI, the combat is fluid when getting through the frame problems on the PC, with tons of way to execute and non-lethally take down your enemies, which was not really an option you had in the old game. To knock down individuals in combat rather than just cutting their heads off. Arkane has also improved how powers work, allowing you to have more upgrades to choose from, like allowing you to kick enemies after teleporting, have more rats with the swarm ability, and allowing Emily to link several individuals together with Domino. Plus, they made traversing the levels so much more flowing, with a parkour-like movement, sliding on objects, jumping over the fences, etc. And while traversing is fun, the levels in this game are like worlds on their own. Dozens of ways to complete them, either sneaking with powers, killing relentlessly so that you can walk through the front door, or use no powers at all. And just run on the rooftops. And some missions have the greatest mechanics, like the Clockwork Mansion that you just got a taste of in the reveal trailer, where the entire house changes every time you pull a lever. And just like before, it is fully possible to finish the game without killing anyone. Plus, this game has a way better confrontations if you go through a more lethal route, actually having some epic fights with the targets. One reason for why I really enjoy that the main characters are voiced is because you get to see how they change based on how many people you kill or not. For example, there are several things in the game that you can inspect, all from a grandfather's clock, to an apple, to a painting, etc. Anyway, if you end up killing a lot of people, the main character will start becoming more cynical and hateful than if you were not to kill anyone. And I really like that, but the thing that kind of does not work as well is the supporting cast. There aren't that many differences in how they act, and there are some small ones, very small, insignificant really. They're pretty much saying the same sentence from each playthrough, from high chaos to low chaos, and then in the very end they might say something, that kind of based on if they think that you're going too far with the way you're kind of getting the power back or not. And that I have a bit of a problem with. But the thing I enjoy the most when it comes to the chaos level is the thing I mentioned in the story part of this review. I don't want to spoil it, I really do not. But it really made my heart just... The heart is back, and this time you get to use it to get secrets from every single individual of the game, instead of only main targets, which is cool. And as before, it allows you to find runes to improve your powers, and to find bone charms to get passive buffs. What else is new in the game is that you are able to craft bone charms. The ability is qualified as a power, so you have to get runes to get it, but it is super powerful, and once it's fully upgraded, you can even make runes. So yeah, there's really impossible for me to put into words how amazing the gameplay is. It is addictive. I've played through the story 6 times now, 3 times as Corvo, 3 times as Emily. On each of those playthroughs I tried to do something different, all from high chaos, low chaos, different decisions, all from helping an individual instead of the other individual, maybe not even helping any one of them. But I do also have a couple of nitpicks. One of them is, again, nitpicks. Corvo's blink ability, you can upgrade it so that you can kick someone right after you teleport straight up to them, and they will fly far and just go through windows, they will crash into walls. It's extremely entertaining. But the thing is that it only works if you're in combat, if the enemy is looking at you, because if they're not, you will simply do an assassination instead of kicking them. So I really wish that Arkane Studios would put in a kick button, like their old games had, what is it called? Dark Messiah, I believe it was called. There they had a kick button. There is also no way to choose a mission in the main menu like the original game had, like mission select, but Harvey Smith has said that they will add in that option in a future update, along with a new game plus mode. That just sounds like a dream come true. And know what else that sounds like a dream? The soundtrack. The very presentation of the game is like a dream, actually. Beautiful music by Daniel Licht that complements the world. The graphics are amazing. I have the settings on high, so I can only imagine how it looks on ultra, but high is looking good, quite good. Sound effect of the guns, swords, and more it's just great. So good job to the sound team. And the world feels more alive with tons of people walking around in the town of Karnaca, which Dishonored 1 lacked, with good lore reasons, but it did feel empty. Plus more women working as guards, construction workers, and more of the type of labor that makes the world feel more full. And as you don't have any weapon manufacturer in the HQ, you have to go to the black market shops to buy stuff, so you get more of a shop experience for those who enjoy that. So in conclusion, an amazing, living and breathing world. I have one criticism of how the world is presented. It has to be on how you never seem to visit the same place twice. In Dishonored 1, you kept returning to the distillery district a couple of times, and you get to see how it changed based on your chaos level. Here, you will constantly get new locations, which of course, it's good in its own way. But you don't really get to see how the world is changing based on your actions. But like most of the negatives I have to mention with this review, it is more of a personal nitpick, as every level is brimmed with personality on their own mechanic, without the need of revisiting, even if it would have been nice. Dishonored 2 is so close at being a perfect game, only small problems holding it back. It has a fascinating story, with a side plot that I'm so happy that they added. Like, seriously, in the original game, Dishonored 1, after I finished that game, I was begging that they would pursue the matter in the sequel, and they did. But the ending is underwhelming. Not bad, underwhelming. And the supporting cast isn't as interesting. They aren't as interesting as the original from Dishonored 1. The gameplay has seen a lot of improvements from the original game, giving you tons of options, all from lethal options to non-lethal ones that the original game did not have. However, while the game does give you options, many of them are limited in their own rights. For example, like I mentioned before, the kicking shares the same button as the attack or assassination button, so you can only kick them in certain action-based circumstances. I also had tons of problems with tight passages. I couldn't sneak through some of them sometimes. I had to blink or teleport or far reach myself through it. I also met with tons of glitches and bugs. For example, that a guy that I really needed to loot ended up falling through the floor. So I had to restart to the most interesting one, where my first target, the interesting, the person you have to focus on, I could always take that individual down. I always had the option, even if I was in combat and she was looking straight at me. That doesn't work with any other enemy or individual in the game. So what I hope would be a really interesting and awesome fight ended up being just a button. So that was a shame. So, tons of goodness with small annoyances holding it back, and that's why I will give Dishonored 2 a 9 out of 10. I really wanted to give it a 10, but the thing is that with the ending, yes, I know the journey is more important than the goal or the end reach, but when you play something amazing, and this is the reaction you get... Yes! Then I just have to put it down slightly. It could also be that I played the PC version. I'm saying that I wouldn't focus on it, but still, I did go through it, all the problems. But it's totally worth it. It is a must buy, so I highly recommend that you get it. Not on PC. Just wait until the PC community it's patched and the PC community is a-okay with it. But again, it is amazing. 9 out of 10 deserves a 10 out of 10, and that's all I can say about that. Anyway, I'm KingJGrim or the KingJGrim, whatever you prefer, and I'll see you guys. It kind of fascinates me how it must be for Corvo with the teleporting, the blink ability, with the frame rate problems. Can you just imagine when he